Practicing with one of these is super fun, but I think we need it sharp. Oh yeah. So here's the box again from Swordier, part 3 of 4. Let's go ahead and open it up. Again, all I've done is cut the tapes. You are getting a proper first look at what this one looks like. So open up. Here's the foam right here. Let's go ahead and get rid of that again. And here's our boy. First impressions, this guy looks absolutely amazing. Go ahead and pull out the sword, give you a good first look. I've removed the plastic off of this one just to test the edge before we did any cutting today. Whoop. Beautiful sword. This one does pass the smell test. It's kind of more of like an earthy, grassy, gardeny smell than the other sword that we reviewed. Take a look at that. All right, let's get a closer look. All right. There's the beastie right there. Now, somebody called me out on my last video because I didn't actually zero my gauges very well. And because of that, it made everything just a little bit confusing. So you can see here, whoop, right there is zeroed out. So starting here, width of the pommel, going just across the fattest part of it, 1.04 inches. So definitely a big pommel. I like big pommels, so that's great. Going to go ahead and head here towards the grip. This one, different than other Swordier swords, it does actually feel good in my hand. It doesn't feel like the grip is a little bit too small. We have 1.03 inches going across here, coming across right here at the bottom of the waist, 0.79. You have a little riser here in the middle of your blade, or right here in the middle of your grip. Looks really good. It is a smaller handle, which is great because that means that you can actually place that pommel a little bit into your hand. And when you place that pommel a little bit into your hand, it helps to direct your edge. So when you hit a more sturdy material, it's less likely to vibrate and throw off your edge alignment. Phil, down at Valley of the Sun this last year, had this exact type model of sword from Swordier. He did a really beautiful Damascus pattern, but he taught a class on how actually putting that pommel into your, this thing, your hand right there, using that to direct the edge helps to make your cuts a lot more powerful, and I find that to be the case. It's also known with like earlier swords that they had grips that were even smaller than this, where they'd come down even about that big, so you couldn't even get all 4 fingers around it. Early Viking Age swords are fairly similar, so the thinking is that that was likely meant to go right there at the base of your palm, so that way you can help it to steer the edge, especially if you're smacking into things like shields, and we still need to remain dynamic. It's kind of like putting a finger over the guard, would be in later periods, but it allows you to have that handshake grip going to attack your opponents. So, moving on, looking at width of the blade. Right here at the base of the blade, we are at 0.22 inches. Halfway up the fuller, we are at 0.16, so already pretty dramatic. Right here at the top of the fuller, we are at 0.13, and then right before it tapers off into the point, we're looking at 0.17. So it does swell just a little bit towards this part, which is not uncommon for this type of a sword, especially when they're dealing with early forms of chainmail, things a little bit more dramatic than padded armor. You do need just a little bit of reinforcement here to punch through those heavier materials, to fit through those rings of the chainmail or the mail armor before you get to your opponent. This does allow you to half sword as well, fairly well, because you have that fuller, you can grab it really well and jam that really, strongly into those weak points of the armor. So it's really kind of a good representation of what an arming sword would have been back in the day, anywhere from about the 1200s all the way up until about the 1500s. After that, these tend to get a bit smaller. They start to develop finger rings, stuff like that. Let's go ahead and head outside and take a look at how these might have been used. All right. Here's a look at the bad boy right here. One of the best ways to test to see if a scabbard is actually like quality or it's going to work is you can do that. And the sword won't fall out. We should be able to grab it and pull with just a little bit of a tug and it'll come out. Dispense with the scabbard here real quick. Ow. And yarn she blows. There's the sword, here's the bottle. On these types of a sword, you don't necessarily want to cut out towards the tip again. More down towards here where the blade is a little bit flatter is going to be your best. You can see it's actually a really good cutting sword. I didn't really have to have a whole ton of rotation or a whole ton of power, but it just kind of blew through that. So overall, this is an amazing cutting sword. I think Phil competed in the cutting sword, or the arming sword cutting, with this model of sword and did fairly well last Valley of the Sun. Now, we were talking a little bit about that just a minute ago. Most of these types of swords would be worn with a buckler. So the same people that sing about, you know, pulling out their Glocks in the gangster rap songs, if guns were never invented, they'd be singing about this type of a sword with a buckler. So buckler almost always stays fully extended next to your target, and using it to protect your hand. So imagine his sword is up over here. I am him for just a sec. He is cutting down at me, haha, that direction. I can take my buckler, stick it in the way of that sword, perhaps even join it with my actual sword, block it, take it off with the buckler, step around, and then make that cut while staying safe. Now, these types of swords, you'll notice, it's pretty much just a boss for something on like a later shield, or a larger shield. Now, this type of a shield, obviously this one's not amazingly historically accurate, but you can see it's a buckler, but bigger. So the same kind of principles still apply. We don't have any manuals for how these shields were used. Most likely it was used very similar to how the buckler was being used. But let's go ahead and put a bottle up here really quick, and we'll kind of demonstrate the similar principle. And if you've never cut while holding a shield in your opposite hand, it does change your body mechanics by quite a bit, because you're much more forward weighted when you have this back. So it's really hard to make a nice cut without throwing yourself off balance, because pretty much all the time you're going to be counterweighting against yourself. So sword out, imagine he's cutting at me, haha, cut through the bottle. And you can see that worked pretty well, even though my cut wasn't super good, because I'm stepping around, whoop, big massive shield is getting in the way. Yeah, it's a pretty good cutting sword. Now, we were talking a little bit about how these types of a sword tend to be a little bit super heavy, most typically when you buy them off the shelf. This one feels a little heavy. Once you swing it around for a little bit, you kind of get a feel for how it should move around in your hand. And honestly, it's not like so bad that we couldn't do any kind of dramatic cutting, because you still want some power in your arming sword, but you don't want it to be so overbearing that it's not going to do what you want it to. Now, this sword, say, I definitely passes as a good cutting sword. I'd be happy to compete with this one. But you can see, especially when we're doing those things where you drop your thumb, you can go full thumb grip while leaving that section open. And as long as you're holding it fairly okay, there's no wiggle in the blade, which is great. So if you go half shield, as if we're going into an opponent, rolling it over the top, taking a block, and then cutting down, no problems. So yeah, there's Swordier. Fairly good sword, pretty tight in the handle. The one thing I don't really understand is this weird leather thing that's going on right here. It's very, very shiny. Other than that, the sword looks like it's fairly high quality. At a passing glance, I don't imagine it cause any problems. If you're wearing it just normal with like a bandolier, I don't see any issues. It does pass the smell test. It kind of smells a little bit more grassy, like we were talking about before. So, I mean, definitely good quality sword. Would this be a good first cutting sword? I would say 100%. I wouldn't complain about it at all, especially for the price point that it's at. And with it being a fairly passable arming sword, and Philip Martin loves it, I'd say this is a pretty good quality replica type of sword. Yeah, there we are.
Where shadow beneath the mountains, ancient blood, flowing rivers, fire and mud. falling across the glen. Heroes born from tales of